Hi Vishwajit.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dada. Thank you for joining with us.
Good afternoon, Sarthak bhai.
Good afternoon, Hitesh bhai. केम छो?
बस बढ़िया, आप सुनाओ कैसे हैं?
बस चल रहा है.
Good. Thanks, nice to.
Good afternoon, Shashwat.
Good afternoon, Professor Chatterjee. How are you?
Fine, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
So, Kadri, you may start with
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Here today we are here, as we all know that, in a National Institute of Urban Affairs, New Delhi, and our SAIARD, that is South Asian Institute for Advanced Research and Development, present one-day national virtual conference on smart city and smart India and smart city. So today's first lecture will be delivered by Dr. Shashwata Bandopadhyay. Dr. Shashwata Bandopadhyay is an urban planning professional with advanced qualification in infrastructural planning and management, and his doctoral research on climate resilience and urban development in emerging economics. He is presently working as a professor at the Faculty of Planning, CPT, University, Ahmedabad, India. Professor Shashwat has over 24 years of experience in the urban development sector with a focus on city development, planning and resilience urban development framework in South Asia. Dr. Shashwat has spearheaded several Pan-Asia pilot research initiatives such as Country Enabling Environment, that is CEE, Report of Asia, Localization of SDGs in Asia Pacific, and ADB Green Cities Toolkit, amongst others. Shashwat has been also been involved in preparation as well as appraisals of several city and comprehensive development plans across various regions of India, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, and China. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us. Now, over to you, sir.
Just before delivering the lecture of Professor Bandopadhyay, I would like to thanks to all the resource persons on behalf of SAIARD, South Asian Institute for Advanced Research and Development. I am the chairman of SAIARD. For heartiest welcome to all of you, sir, for joining with us in this webinar, and also all the participants. Just before going to start, I would like to say few words about SAIARD, South Asian Institute for Advanced Research and Development. It's mostly a capacity building center, one kind of, and right now it's a Government of India MSME certified institution, and very soon we got the opportunity to get affiliation from the Vidyasagar University for doing some courses. And from the very beginning, we have started several course modules, trainings, workshops in collaboration with the different government, non-government, industry, academic organizations, different academic institutions, universities have signed more with us. And since the beginning from our journey, we have continuously done lots of academic activities through this different mode. And also after this corona, we have started this virtual platform. And right now we are become an international reach, already have reached into the international platform. So today's program is mainly for organizing, mainly to know the smart city and what are the concepts, initiatives are taken in the smart city by the Government of India, as well as the different projects, and what will be the future of city when it becomes a smart. So that's why we are privileged that we have three most prominent resource persons: Professor Shashwat Bandopadhyay from Safety University, Gujarat, Mr. Hitesh Vaidya from the Director of the National Institute of Urban Affairs, New Delhi, and Professor Tathagata Chatterjee from the Xavier's University of Bhubaneswar. So thanks, professors, thanks, doctors, all of you for joining with us and supporting us to conduct this webinar successfully. And we are privileged that in future we also get your support. So I would like to request once more Professor Shashwat Bandopadhyay to start the innings with your wonderful lecture. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishwajit. Thank you, SAIARD, and it's all participants.
Sir, please, and on your video, please, sir. We'd like to see. Yes.
Thank you, Vishwajit. Thank you, SAIARD. Thank you, all other colleagues, especially my good friend, Professor Hitesh Vaidya and Professor Tathagata, and also Professor Sashikant and other colleagues and participants. Good afternoon, and also thanks very much SAIARD for organizing and inviting us to share our talk. And I have been reading a lot about SAIARD on social media, that SAIARD has been spearheading a lot of innovative webinars and a lot of innovative courses and capacity building. So all the best to SAIARD for spearheading this innovative chain of journey in terms of urban development and urban capacity. So today my talk is basically focusing on about the Indian smart cities are being shaped, and more specifically what value addition do these smart cities bring to Indian urban development paradigm, and more specifically in post-COVID situation, what are the key roles, anticipated role of smart cities? So this is the broader talk that I would like to share with you. Let me share my screen.
I would like to request to every participants, please mute yourself. Otherwise, we have to remove you because we will not admit any kind of hindrance regarding during our resource persons lecture. Please. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, thank you. I think please mute your microphone, otherwise there will be some background noise and echo. So the talk, basically, we have been hearing a lot about what is smart cities, Indian smart cities mission, and there are a lot of, enthusiasm about this Indian smart cities. And also there are a lot of critical reflection about Indian smart cities. What are these smart cities? What are they trying to do? And in many ways, seminars or webinars, I see a lot of people also critically reflecting that that India is not, these smart cities are not good enough to the way. So basically, the my this was a paper that I had written with my colleague, that smart cities, what value addition do they bring to India's urban development paradigm? And what has been the journey, and particularly related to Government of India's mission Smart Cities, and what is the way forward, particularly in the context of the way the COVID is being shaped up, post-COVID, what are the role of smart cities? Just a quick recap. As we all know this, that we had in the 2011 census, we had about 8,000 towns and cities, 7,935 towns and cities. Out of them, the administrative towns were about 4,000 towns, and remaining are our census towns. But various projections, various assessment is that next 10 years, by 2030, India is going to add about 600 million population. So totally about 600. So additionally about 250 to 300 million. What it means, about 25 to 30 crore people would be in our urban areas. About 12,000 urban centers. This is a recent publication by Indian Human Institute of Human Settlement. What they try to anticipate or project, that India would be about roughly about 600 millions by 60 crore, and about 12,000 towns and cities by 2030. What we had was in 2011 about 7,935 or so. Now this, what it tells, that this is that India would be one of the largest or second largest urban systems in anywhere in the world. Because after China, we would be the second largest urban system in terms of number of towns, number of cities that is going to be managed. So there is, India has a large urban development related aspects, and urban areas are also very important for multiple purpose, because of not only the more and more people are coming to urban areas for opportunities. Urban areas are also anticipated that they're contributing to national GDP. 2/3 of India's GDP is estimated to be in urban. So these are the kind of challenges, and this is I have taken it from the World Bank nightlight data, showing the large agglomeration or economic and urban clusters, forming. The darker color indicating the darker shape indicating the nightlight data where this kind of agglomerations are forming. And what we did is a quick estimate from the World Bank Institute's data that by 2011 data, India was about what we call 6%, 6/30/65 ratio. 6% of India's geographic area is urban. 30% of India's population is residing in this 6% of area with a density of about 1400 person per square kilometer. About 65% of that time, because it was a dated, I think now it is around 70%. 65% of the country's economy is produced in these urban areas. And more importantly, this each square kilometer of urban space contribute approximately about 4 crore Indian rupees to the GDP. That's the productivity, and that's what urban the space is very, very valuable and often highly contested. And that's what this is the broader urban landscape that we have in India. And this is manifesting not only in the population growth. Some of you may know about London School of Economics last year published this data that every day Indian cities are accommodating about 65 to 70 people per hour. That is the kind of population that are getting added from rural to urban migration and readjustment, etc. We did, based on WRI data, we did some assessment looking at what is the manifestation of this urbanization in Indian cities. And what we found that that this physical form, for example, a city like Delhi, which is adding close to about 50 square kilometer per year. Every year, Delhi is adding 50 square kilometer. Mumbai is about 5 square kilometer because it is bound by sea on 3 sides. Pune is about 40 square kilometer. Ahmedabad is about 20 square kilometer. So cities are expanding and making it is a very large urban city region. And and asking for the peripheral areas, the peri-urban areas, asking for more services, service land, and transport, etc., etc. And these are the kind of this is the India's urban development paradigm, and it's a business as usual mode. There is a committee, high-powered expert committee led by late Sri Ishad Jaj Aluwalia. Her committee estimated that if in the normative process of urban growth and the need for infrastructure services, India would need about 40 lakh crore worth of investment, roughly about 2 lakh crore worth of urban investment in infrastructure services if this goes in the business as usual mode. So every year, you have to mobilize resources in order to service the infrastructure services and other support transportation, etc. So this is the challenge of India's urban development, and often we get to see images like this: overcrowding, the formation of slums, the roads are being choke-blocked with a lot of private vehicles, private transport systems, etc., etc. And India has two other very important challenges. One, the left side, this is a very popular image in the social media. It is about the capacity of human resources. Besides the challenge of financial resources, India has a very major challenge of a human resource management and human resource capacity in this. And on the right side, this is a flyover which got opened, and this is the third or fourth day, sorry, about fifth day after the flyover was opened in Hyderabad, a photo was taken. Now the photo image clearly depicts that our lack of, technical capacity in anticipating growth. How many people are coming and what kind of growth taking place. Our ability to anticipate is also, challenging in many cases. So with this kind of challenges, the background that this is the paradigm that not only in India, across the world, whenever there was a challenge like this, there was a growing concern that cities would require smarter solutions. The smarter solution are under, because of this increasing environmental, social, economic pressure, how the cities can use, apply ICT, information communication technologies, or internet of technologies, and etc. IoTs, so that these services could be delivered and some of these challenges can be managed well. So globally, although we all know there is no accepted definition in terms of smart cities, but there has been some very interesting effort. Some scholars across the world have tried, attempted to, define what is smart. For example, his very famous paper called Dawn of Smart Cities, John Kennedy, he made a very interesting comment that a smart city is the one that makes better choices. Okay, similarly, in European Union, we have certain working definition of smart cities. European Union definition is smart city is a city seeking to address public issues via ICT-based solution, and also on the basis of municipality and multi-stakeholder partnerships. There is also a British system definition calling about smart cities is a term denoting the effective integration of physical, digital, and human systems in the built environment to deliver a sustainable, prosperous, and inclusive future for its citizens. So this is how the various attempts globally, the attempt has been made to, define what is smart and what is a smart city. Basically, cities, what it found was that most of the cities are in the paradigm of day-to-day problem solving or firefighting. They are unable to plan for future. They are unable to look for future, issues and plan for future. So day-to-day regular issue solving or firefighting cannot be sustainable. No, today there is no water. Tomorrow there is no solid waste or electricity. So cities where actually across the world, cities were, mainly they're spending 80-90% of their time in basically managing and, solving regular issues. So that's what there was a growing need that cities require innovative approaches for solving day-to-day issues. At the same time, they did look forward for innovative approaches for anticipating future challenges. If a smarter one, try to look at what is the future, how the future can be anticipated. So the smarter ones, meaning that they are leveraging information to make better decision. They are anticipating problems to resolve them proactively rather than reactively. And then they're coordinating resources. A city has multiple resources. How they can coordinate resource to, operate effectively in this, thereby increasing the value cities generate for their citizens in a rapidly changing economic and urban world. Because that the cities, instead of, dated one the time bogged down with their day-to-day problem solving issues, how cities are leveraging information to take a better decision, more informed decision. They are being able to anticipate problems. They are able to coordinate it better across the various verticals in the organization, etc. They can. So they tried, even there is globally the cities like Bristol, various cities, they they have developed what is called intelligent command and control center, where they're connecting municipal government with the hospitals, universities, communities, businesses, and trying to create a kind of smarter ecosystem and leveraging information technology to give the city all the stakeholders better advantage. So these have been the global, experience. There has been global experience or paradigm of smart cities. Some of the lead cases has been like city like Amsterdam, although it is very old city, it has done a lot of smarter retrofitting and position itself as a global poster child of smart cities. Similarly, we have Barcelona. As you know, Barcelona is also, this is a very old port city, which has, transformed itself to a smarter one, promoting itself to a kind of a knowledge corridor and acting very proactively to develop Barcelona grids of knowledge, etc. Then we have more greenfield in UAE. If some of you go to Abu Dhabi, it is outskirts of Abu Dhabi. There is a smarter quarter called Masdar City, entirely greenfield, and it was developed for industrial, urban, and those kind of innovation. And one we have in Gujarat called GIFT, which is just out between Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar. About 1,000 acres land has been taken up for development of GIFT city, and the city it is standing, and it has been developed as a smart city being developed. It is a process of development, but it has been projected as a smart city in this. So with this background, coming to what Government of India launched in 2015 is mission of smart city development, and through a provision of a nationwide competition, they are trying to develop about 100 smart cities. Government of India's approach is that smart city development is broadly into two. One is that smart cities, one area is identified. This area could be greenfield, or some area which is old city could be retrofitted, or some place can be redeveloped. So this is called area-based development. And there is a city-wide solution called Pan City solution. So smart cities it has two specific themes. One is area-based development and Pan City solution. The second thing, I keep hearing a lot of criticism that there is no basic infrastructure. How can we become smart? So for basic infrastructure, there is a clever strategy taken by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs that all smart cities, except for bearing one or two smart cities, all smart cities are also happen to be Amrut cities. Amrut is another parallel mission by Government of India, which is focusing on development of basic services like water, sanitation, green park, and basic physical infrastructure. So almost all 100 cities, except for two, all 98 cities are also, the basic infrastructure is covered by Amrut, and smarter development is being anticipated to smart cities. So often, I find it quite a baseless criticism of smart cities that, oh, they don't have basic infrastructure. But it is a very clever convergence of two missions. One mission supporting the city to develop their basic infrastructure, and one mission helping them to become smarter. The point here is that, if we follow the normative urban development paradigm that what we saw last 40, 50 years, it is impossible for our, to meet the demand of infrastructure, meet the demand of financial resources, human resources, and other related things. So we have no option but to, innovate and become smarter, so that, we are using, coordinating with our resources and responding to the day-to-day problems that are emerging in this. So as we said that this mission was launched on 25th June 2015, and that time tentatively 98 cities were shortlisted. Out of 98 cities, 24 cities were capital cities, 24 cities are business centers like Ahmedabad, 18 cities are cultural and tourism importance, and 5 cities are port cities. And so this is that there was a broader coverage of the smart cities that were shortlisted in that time. And through a very innovative process of kind of a national competition called Smart City Challenge, where two stages of the challenge were initiated, stage 1 and stage 2, through which the cities were shortlisted about to get this. So it was not like an automatic choice. Cities have to compete through two stages process. First stage, city has to look at its existing service level, institutional capacities, self-financing ability, fast track of record and reform. Then stage 2 is an external evaluation, and that led to the final announcement of the smart cities. And selected cities started with implementation of smart cities plan by setting up their SPVs, and other selected, non-selected cities were asked to improve their proposal so that these challenges can they come in this. So till date, there are these 4 rounds or 5 rounds were chronologically developed by the Smart Cities Mission. Round 1, it is in 2016, they declared about 20 smart cities, covering about 37 crore of Indian urban population, and proposal about 48,000 crores worth of project. Round 1, fast track cities, because there are, after 20 cities were announced, there are a lot of enthusiasm that prompted ministry to announce additional 13 cities, and that is called fast track round. They have declared another 13 cities with about 10 crore of urban population, about another 30,000 crores worth of smart cities proposal. Round 2 declared 27 cities and about 25 crore of population and 50,000 crores worth of project. Round 3 declared 30 cities with about 23 crore of population and 57,000 crore worth of project. And final round, it is about, this is about 10 cities and 3.6 crore, and the cost of projects is about 13,000 crore. So the map broadly gives you various round cities and their kind of their geographic spread across India, how these are spread and they have been selected. Now, what kind of projects smart cities are bringing? Because there are, the idea of the smart cities, applying ICT, applying some of the innovations. So smart cities broadly are covering projects like 24/7 water supply, smart metering, water ATMs, household, then smart and e-public toilets, then RFID based solid waste collection. Some of you probably know there is this new initiative called POI, point of interest, where every city is trying to collect, identify the POIs in the city and where they're monitoring regular waste management. Then urban transport, public bike sharing and public transport, smart signages, multi-level car parking, parks and open space, sensory parks, etc. Then heritage projects, health ATM, health and education, mapping and GIS-based solution, integrated command and control center, and so on and so forth. This is the overall broader landscape of the smart cities investment project. And some of them you can see a snapshot of these projects: public bike sharing, heritage makeover, integrated command and control center, smart pedestrian walkways, non-motorized corridor, restoration of fort, then the smart environmental sensors, surveillance camera and environmental sensors, riverfront development, and smart schools and education in some of the places. So some of them have a serious impactful this thing. For example, integrated command and control center. During COVID, cities like Surat, cities like Pune, cities like Indore have been very effectively using their integrated command and control center in tracing and testing, and also mapping the COVID positive cases and quarantine cases. And there have been very impactful use of such cases in this through this kind of projects. Then there is a large scale public bike sharing across India. This is called Cycle for Change. Recently it has been launched, and you will be able to see from Delhi to Ahmedabad to Pune to Bhopal, a lot of this public bike sharing. And many of us who used to use public bike sharing, bikes in way in our school days, are now going back to this public bikes and started using. I see early morning hundreds of people are biking, bicycling because of health reason. Young children are doing the same thing, and so on and so forth. These are the kind of various images of non-motorized transport and that are being taken up in this various spaces. And also this ICT has been very important impact in smart classroom. How? Because many municipal school where there is a shortage of teacher or infrastructure, ICT has been playing a very important role in connecting and upgrading those municipal school. And a lot of municipal school in, for example, like Delhi and also in Andhra have been upgraded. There is a one teacher is teaching simultaneously, reaching out to multiple multiple student at the same time. There have been also very interesting street light poles which have been taken up. The people have taken up like with a Mars pole with environmental sensors, which is at the same time trying to reflect, not only providing light, which is a censored light whenever there is an activity, the light operates, but it also have environmental sensors, which is collecting weather data, and city-wide data which is being collected and analyzed. So it is giving that level of information at a very important level in this kind of a. So these are the kind of situation that are that smart cities are trying to innovate and trying to bring a very important large urban development, impacting India's urban development paradigm, because we have the second largest urban systems across the global region. And so this is there are a lot of opportunities, but this is at the same time it's very challenging. Now this has been, now if you look at the COVID-19 and the proliferation of these COVID-19 cases, we see there is a massive disruption of life and living across the global region. And cities have become the center of most COVID cases and COVID action. Much of these COVID-19 cases and impacts have been seen in the urban area. Till August data, one of my colleagues, he attempted to map some of the COVID cases and found that about 80% of Indian cases till August are urban cases. So, that majority of these outbreaks are in the focusing on urban areas. So COVID-19 has brought back the debates of resilience, issues of public health, urban housing, infrastructure, parks and open spaces, and increasing the role of urban local bodies. Because generally in the disaster and disaster management and risk reduction, we generally depend on agriculture, revenue, and disaster management agencies. COVID-19 has flatly brought back the importance of the urban local body. The significant role of urban local bodies in the managing in COVID-19. And this has been, kind of you can call it a resurgence or a set of an empowerment. In spite of 74th constitutional amendment, our urban local bodies are not sufficiently empowered. But during COVID crisis, across India, we saw a sort of a resurgence of the increasing role of urban local bodies in testing, tracing, contacting, disinfecting. And this I see a post-COVID-19 opportunity that we able to probably build back better, taking this, whenever a disaster strikes, we have an emergency. Then there's a phase now in India, we are calling it as an emergency phase. Past 6 months, we are, trying to respond to this case. Later, after the emergency is over, we call it as the recovery phase. And then the new case, the next stage, what we call new normal phase. Now, so this could be an opportunity to build back better and living back safer. This is, and I see an important role the smart cities are going to play in terms of this post-COVID new normal situation, and also the fulfilling the SDGs, localizing the SDG targets. And if you know the SDG 11, particularly SDG 11 has a very strong targets in terms of disaster, reduction of the number of deaths and number of people affected in disaster, And similarly, also integrating the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, and prepare a holistic disaster risk management at all levels. These are all SDG 11 target. By 2030, we have to reduce the risk of disaster and people affecting, and by this year we also have to integrate this disaster risk management. So I think the smart cities have this opportunity to fulfilling localizing these SDG 11 targets very well. And as you all know, during this pandemic, the very leadership role that Indian smart cities have played, not only all cities across the world, but particularly, as I was saying, there has been smart cities have been on the forefront of online surveillance and monitoring of COVID cases, testing, tracing. They have been also mapping city level public and private hospitals, routes, fire station, location of emergency vehicle, raising awareness of capacity building, municipal local administration, sanitary healthcare and staff, development of mass communication. They have been leading in partnership with the local private sector, NGO, civil society, and charitable organization. Also, management of COVID, biomedical waste, etc., etc. So, smart cities have taken a leadership role during this COVID pandemic across India, whether it is Pune, whether it is Ahmedabad, whether it is Surat, whether it is Indore, you see the cities have been leading from the front in managing this pandemic. And now the cities, because when you say, if you look at some of the, way forward, that this COVID pandemic, we have to live longer with this risk. And it's not that we wish that tomorrow it's going away. So cities across the world are preparing to live with, a kind of a social distancing norms, trying to reorganize their spaces, reorganize. So living new normal would call for cities taking a lot of innovative action. For example, Europe, majority of restaurants now they have made it open outdoor restaurants. So they have stopped going to indoor restaurants. So most of them have gone to the fringe areas and outdoor because the COVID risk is lesser. Then you have to reorganize your marketplaces, you have to reorganize your transaction spaces, public transport. Because I see, many cases cities are complaining that nobody is listening to us, or people are not following. People will only follow when you design space like that. Or you have to, proactively allow social distancing to take. And here I see smart cities can play a role. And across the world, smart cities are using smart signages, smart intervention to segregate people, because we have to live longer time. Various projections says probably mid 2021, we have to live with a kind of a safety precaution, etc., etc. So there is a massive need of this kind of organizing, and that our local bodies have to play, and particularly smart cities with their capacity, with their ability to provide the surveillance cameras and sensors, would be able to do it slightly better. And in a new normal situation, because our cities are, as we have seen during COVID, that our cities are have higher vulnerability. But post-COVID, we see that there is more focus on access to core services, affordable rental housing and public space, integration to green and blue infrastructure, increased city and hinterland planning, and more urban data generation. And in all these, we see a very effective role our smart cities are going to play in future, and contribute effectively to, in a safe and sustainable India's urban development paradigm in near future. And what I call always that smart cities would be at the forefront of building back better and living back safer. And that's all I wanted to share today about that. These smart cities are, adding immense value to India's urban development paradigm, and making a safer and sustainable habitat in these cities. And in future, we would like to see these 100 smart cities becoming, it's like a spoken hub. They become, hub of excellence, and spreading the good works to other cities which are non-smart or not under this category, helping them become a more, safer transition from the present chaos to more sustainable urban development. I once again thank you, Vishwajit, thank you, SAIARD, thank all participants for listening to my talk today afternoon. I know post-lunch sessions are a bit difficult because you feel very sleepy, but I hope my slides gave you some ideas about Indian smart cities. I'm also leaving my email ID, which is shashwatb@cpt.ac.in, and my WhatsApp number with you in case any of you would like to connect, in case you want to share your thoughts, please feel free to do so. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you, and over to you, Vishwajit.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for enlightening us for a wonderful speech. So now, anyone have any question? Do anyone have any question? Hello? I think
I think they have slept off post lunch.
Dr. Bandyopadhyay, I think no, sir. I don't think so. So I don't think anyone have any question. May I proceed to another speaker? Thank you once again, sir. Thank you very much. So the next speaker of today's session is Mr. Hitesh Vaidya, Director NIUA. Sir, are you present, sir?
Yeah, I'm there.
Mr. Hitesh. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
he's
Okay. He is currently the director of National Institute of Urban Affairs. He has an over 20 years of experience in the field of urban management, urban governance, and capacity building. He has been involved in providing technical assistance and capacity building support to several urban local bodies and instituting significant urban reforms at local level. He brings on board strong demonstrative experience of improving institutional capacities, including developing strategies to support in delivering the program results. He has been associated in areas of urban development, urban governance, and urban infrastructure management with UN, World Bank, US Agency for International Development assignments. Poverty alleviation has been an integral component of all his assignment. Prior to joining NIUA, he was the country representative of UN Habitat in India. He was intensely involved in supporting an ecosystem to design and roll out urban programs, including localizing sustainable development goals. His strength lies in developing institutional arrangements and projecting implementation strategies through facilitating effective liaison and coordination with various stockholders. Mr. Vaidya holds a master's degree in business development and postgraduate diploma in urban development and planning and specialization in urban management from Institute of Housing and Urban Development Studies, IHS, Rotterdam, Netherlands. Sir will speak about learning from COVID and moving to Atmanirbhar India. Sir, over to you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And thank you, South Asia Institute for Advanced Research and Development Studies, my colleague, panelist, Shashwat Bandyopadhyay and Dr. Tathagat Chatterjee. Thank you very much for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to speak. Yes, I'm really honored. Thank you, Mr. Vishwajit, for inviting me. After batting after Tendulkar is always difficult. The comprehensiveness of the presentation which Professor Shashwat has just made, I think it will be very difficult for you to appreciate my little presentation, but I hope I will meet the expectations from the audience on this thing and meet that challenge what Dr. Shashwat has laid down for me. Dr. Shashwat talked about COVID issues, and he very comprehensively articulated about smart cities, and I don't think so there is anybody can add much what he has laid down for us. So I will move away from smart cities and give like, okay, we all know they have been selected. We all know they are right now working on a different innovative was COVID, and I see the COVID every day. We all are talking about what should be the new norms for social distances. He has already talked about it. How should people travel? Should we go with the public transport, or we use private transport? Will the work from home will be the new norm, or we will start full unlocking and full office working like business as usual earlier? How should we shop? There will be retailer outlets, there will be online shopping. How should people socialize? Earlier we used to come, meet, go to each other's houses. Will we continue with that? Or we will be staying in our own houses and meet like this through a Zoom or a Boom or some, Spike or something like that? How do we really interact with each other? Because now we also see people dying, and all the prayer meeting which are happening after their death is through Zoom, which is very painful, but we have to live with that situation, and we are trying to adjust with that type of situation. But for family members, it's a real painful thing. And it's also totally different from the human as a social animal we are. And if we don't socialize and remain in our own cubicles, starting, it will be not very far that we'll start really hating our life. So what is the best way to do that? Again, Professor Saswat talked about city planning. We saw people walking on the road. We know what is the informality. We saw the invisible, which we always used to read and research in the papers. There are poor, there are this type of poor, that poor. But this COVID actually gave a face to these poor people. We saw them walking. So when we think about city, how should we really plan for the city? So while these challenges will remain, and these challenges were already there in one form or the other, they were not like they came just because of COVID. Only thing that through COVID, all these issues started getting a little more visible, a little more talked about, a little more discussed, a little more deliberated, but will be there. In this whole thing, a prime minister came up and prime minister gave 3 visions. And I think that's the way we need to look forward. He says, if we have to meet the challenges of this type of cities, which our cities are facing, the only way is to become an Atmanirbhar. And when it is Atmanirbhar, it is self-reliant. How do we become self-reliant? Then he said we need to move towards the 5 trillion economy. And third, he said local, the vocal. So if we have to do these 3 challenges, if we have to meet these challenges, I don't think so any top-down guidebooks will work for this. Nobody can write and say that these are the 5 steps you write and you will move to this Atmanirbharta, or you will move to the 5 trillion. Each city has to find out its own unique selling point and then come up with how do they want to take this journey. And I think one of the beauty of the smart city, which Professor Saswat really did, that they had to plan, define how they want to be smart. If Dharamshala is a tourist city, then they have to take a route of tourism to become smart. If Goa is a port city, they have to take a route of tourism or fisheries or something else. What is the main contributing to their economy? If Delhi is an administrative city, then it has to start thinking about it. And that was a beauty, that let each city start thinking, how do I want to become smart? Nobody can tell you how smart is. I know when the smart city definition was being debated in the ministry, I was a part of the ministry when this whole first sentence was written, how do we define smart? I was a part of a PMU, which was supporting ministry. And I remember the discussion, and I remember my saying that when we call up a small child, and we ask them, we look at small child and we look at him, we say, oh, are you smart? Or he is smart. What do we think about it? Why do we say somebody, like right now, how do we say Professor Saswat is smart and Hitesh is duffer? The only way we can say Professor Saswat is the way he presented, the way he articulated, the way he responded. So that is that responsiveness of city towards the citizen need is the smartness for me. And that is where, and other way of smartness is the physical outlook. Is the city has a green spaces? Is the city has spaces for road streets designed for the people with a disability? Does the city have the offices are more accessible? So these are the physical spaces and the responsiveness. That is what the in my opinion the definition of smartness can be. And I think that's what the type of messages when Professor Saswat talked about ICT and doing a lot of this initiative public spaces and all is was using the mind of the city by the technology and using the spaces of the cities to improving the physical infrastructure with city. And combination of those both make the city smart. And that's why I say each city has to come up with its own urban solution. Nobody can tell you what is good or bad for you. You have to think as a city, what is good and bad for me. And so there can be not one smart approach or one smart definition, which can make, with a swipe that everybody becomes smart. So and I think he also talked about business as usual approach and thinking about disruptive, innovative ways of doing business. And according to me, what are these disruptive, innovative ways when we are looking at smartness? This has to be result oriented. We need to show how we achieve, which he has showed just now. Impact oriented. Tomorrow we have to also say how many people we have actually moved from poverty to above poverty line. How many people have got income level higher than that? So and scalable rather than these initiatives which are happening at a pilot level. How I can scale them at a city level? These are the some things which we have to start, and equitable, that everybody has a thing. I call it has to give that thing that the cities rise to the next level. Cities move away from whatever level they are to the next level. So that's what I will call it. I have called it result oriented, impact oriented, scalable, and equitable. Now, during the COVID, which we saw, rather than saying that this was a problem, this was how do we take the lessons from COVID and say we move to that next level? And one thing which we realized during the COVID, that it was the citizens which became an equal partner in fighting the COVID. When we communicated this message, which is social distancing, use the mask, citizens started coming up in groups and say that, okay, I will help my neighborhood. I will contribute to the food. I'll contribute to things. And they started coming up at a neighborhood level to design how the neighborhood should look like, how we can provide those amenities of sanitation and amenities or masks to the people. So it was the citizens who started working hand in hand. So how do we really institutionalize this citizen engagement? I think that's where we need to be really focusing upon. And we have seen, as I told earlier, a unique selling point of city, whether it's a university city, culture city, administrative city, economic hub, how they can help us with the help of those type of stakeholders to involve in the city planning to design for the next move. And the COVID is this time, while we are talking about COVID, we forget that there is with the earthquake, with the rains, which we are seeing right now, so many people are dying. Even Bombay became, after rains, became a real. So these type of disasters will go on coming. So we need to prepare cities for not only for COVID, but all type of disasters. Second thing, again, the cities require a very, very clear leadership. And Professor Saswat again talked about 74th Amendment. I started my career when the 74th Amendment was issued. And it's 25 years now in this profession. If 74th Amendment has not worked, it's been high time that we go on criticizing that 73rd did not, 74th did not work. That's why we are not working. I think we need to start thinking beyond 74th. If that amendment is the barrier, then it's a time to go back to the drawing board and say what should be the new barrier, how we can really institutionalize, how do we can empower our local bodies. I think that's the way, one of the lessons which we learned from the COVID was wherever we have a strong leadership, the cities performed well, both in the terms of smart cities and now during the COVID also. We saw that happening. The cities which had a clear leadership, which agreed on the principles of smartness, really worked. And you can see whether the commissioner was a powerful or a mayor was powerful. The proposals of those cities were more powerful because that was owned by the city. They were not prepared by the consultants. They were owned by the city. City owned it. City agreed on it. But that was driven by the leadership at the local level. So we need to see whether the system which we are having right now, is it a workable, or we need to really go back. So that's another area we need to really dwell as a community of practitioners to think what should be the approach of multiplicity of agencies working together for rather than working cross purposes, but working in convergence for the development of city. Third lesson which we learned, move away from our master plan approach. Master plan approach, which we make 10 years, 20 years of master plan, and then we revisit them right now. And I'm also equally culprit. I'm right now working in 2041 master plan of Delhi. We have still a challenges of 2021 master plan of Delhi. We are taking 20 years ahead. But I think now the time has come, and this COVID has also shown us we need to come up with a very, very strategic planning, neighborhood level planning, local area level planning. Again, SEPT and Professor Saswat are championing this whole area, dialogue to local area plan. We need to really, rather than restricting them to one area, we need to really scale up that exercise and how we can involve them in this local area plan into a greater master plan. But COVID has said wherever we had a ward level committees, where we had a ward level RWAs, they really worked well, and they could contain those pandemic really spreading from their own ward to outside. So we need to start thinking rather than how do we work in with the level. We have a 74th amendment, again going back both of wards committees. Do we need to have that type of a ward committee, or do we need to work out a new ward committee model? We need to really think about that. I think this all of you will appreciate. This COVID has also showed that more we invest in data and technology, better results we will have. Today we could contain, and even though we are in numbers very high in in the death rate or a pandemic, people suffering from pandemic, but the best part is the way our cities have used the data to really find out which are the hotspots, which are the containment zones, which are the green zones. This all could happen because we had a data, we could invest in that data environment, and that type of a data investment which we use right now has a potential to scale up. When Smart City Mission was being designed, when we started talking about integrated command and control center, we were told that you are creating white elephants. There will be a room, there will be a lot of infrastructure which will be created, and nobody will use it. But I think today, if you look at it, hindsight, the people who thought about this was really visionary, because these command and control center really stood up the test of the time and captured that data. Now the idea is that data has been captured with the smart cities, with the health department convergence. How do we utilize this data into a next level and start making evidence-based planning? How do we create a data strategies for each city that every plan or every action is not made on an ad hoc basis, but based on the grounded in data, mapping, analysis on a real-time basis? And I think that's the journey which we need to really think about. How do we really, again, Professor Saswat again talked about, I'm repeating, but we saw the good quality data required to inform each stage of development of culture of data governance. We saw them communicating and conversing with each other. First time we saw health department talking to planning department, we saw sanitation workers being given areas allocated that this is a pandemic area. Nowhere, one of the good things happened during the COVID, where even though we can criticize things happen, but I think nowhere, no city operations really stopped. Every city was being sanitized. There was no death because of lack of food. nobody died because of hunger. So systems did work in the cities. Cities did respond. And as he said very clearly, this has really brought the agenda of cities being to be empowered much more strengthened the dialogue and deliberation than it had before, because we saw that all the action happening at the city level. Again, one of the lessons was, and we saw this because of cities are not only should not be looked in silos. Cities should be looked at in a region. How does city really perform in the region? So if it is a Delhi, it's not only Delhi, but the whole NCR. It is not only Mumbai, but whole MMRDA. So we need to see a regional growth, because people come to cities for jobs and all, but people also go back because their families are in the rural hinterland. So when we start thinking about cities, we need to think about them in the regional context, and both learn or earn or depend on each other. There cannot be cities, got food because the rural hinterland, the food could come to the cities. Rural hinterland got jobs because cities had the jobs. So how do we plan city as a whole, rather than looking at a city as a spatial unit, just a boundary of municipal, but look at a region as a whole? So that's the one area. And I think Kolkata is the real example where we can make it as an engine of East India, because it has connecting very strongly with Ranchi, Patna, Bhubaneswar, Guwahati. So how do we make a bigger metro region or bigger mega regions, metro regions, city regions? So we need to just thinking about in that context, cities, and we need to move away from only Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Pune to smaller towns, because we need to start creating a hierarchy of cities within the country. Unless we create those hierarchy of cities, the pressure on these metro cities will go on becoming mega, and mega go on becoming bigger mega cities on that. I know this is my typical example. We all love to restaurants, and we all love to have a best of a dishes. We want best of dishes for us or our family members. But the choice of best of dishes really depend on the right hand side of menu, rather than on the left hand side. Left hand side can give you best of puddings, but you will choose what is affordable, what is depend on how much money is on the in your pocket at that particular time. So cities, you can think about best of way to cities to grow, but unless you make them financially sustainable, your Atam Nirbhar will only happen when they have a money in their pocket. So what are the revenue methods? What are the financial methods we need to really explore or relook that cities start getting more financially strengthened? We had 14th Finance Commission, which talked about devolution of funding. We have 15th Finance Commission, but we need to really start thinking of regular sources of income to make them financially strong. We need to explore the methods to widen the resource base. How do we really look at municipal bond financing, alternative financing? So every urban local body has to have developed its own credit worthiness to implement, to look at the revenue enhancement plan. What are the methods of revenue? Unless we make cities self-reliant, look at their property tax. Have we captured all the property tax data in the things? Maximum city doesn't have even a 30% to 40% property tax data. Have so different methods of revenue enhancement, value capture, financing, others need to be explored to really make the cities much more financially and their own revenue sources, rather than depending on the central grant and others. So you will also appreciate when this COVID happened, cities didn't have any funding. We need to have some kind of a funding with the cities where they could have a money in their pocket to really address these challenges. They should not depend on, because there is a today Amrut mission or Smart City mission, there is a funding under administrative and other expenses. I pick up that funding and utilize for COVID response, but there should be some kind of money which is totally in the hands of city, which they can utilize for disaster like this to happen, and how to mitigate this disaster in the future. Again, I think this has been talked about. Again, we need to not only the local governance, which I talked about, but also capacity tools. We saw this time sanitation workers sanitizing the cities. Did they have capacities to really do that? Have we trained the city citizens? So, we need a different set of skill sets at the city level now. Earlier cities were only doing two functions: solid waste management and maximum cleaning of property tax collection. But now when we are talking about cities as a entities for providing basic services, different types of functions, we need to really build those capacities of cities. So, and I always feel that there has to be a capacity alliance at the national level, where all of us, rather than duplicating and replicating, and I think we need to come up with a whole capacity strategy where all of us are like a South Asian Institute or SAPT or Xavier, where Professor Tathagat comes from. How do we collaborate and build duplicating, creating a knowledge products really capacitate the whole country or whole so that's the area where we need to really focus with that. Last, while we are managing all our cities, we are doing a lot of infrastructure. We should not forget that we need to really make our infrastructure environmentally sustainable. We need to protect our water bodies, our drainage, our river beds, and how we can utilize these assets of the city to benefit the economic development of city, rather than becoming them neglecting assets and depleting in the long run. So we need to, as he also said, we need to build back better. How we can make these issues much more resilient, our infrastructure much more resilient. We saw sometimes in Kochi, the rain came, and in one rain, the whole airport, which was done with a lot of investment, got really washed away. So we need to really start, we need to move away with this thinking which we have in India in our blood. Jugaad, वो जुगाड़ से निकलना पड़ेगा. Unless we go on with working with जुगाड़ 1.0 to जुगाड़ 2.0 to जुगाड़ 3.0, we will not think. So we have to move up with our own mentality of moving out of the jugaad's mentality and really thinking of long-term solutions rather than the shortcuts, which is to please our ministers and secretaries happy and cut the ribbon and kiss the baby and then move away to the next project. I think that mentality has to go away. Last, I think I will not go into that. The human resource needs and augmentation, and I think I have talked about it. So in the end, I'll just say, I'll repeat, we need to talk about our governance framework. We need to talk about local area development. We need to focus on housing, mobility, public spaces, resilient infrastructure, and prepare our cities for disaster resilience. So I see this as a whole opportunity to change the processes, because now the new normal, if we want a business as usual approach, which we have been doing 70 years, and now looking at it, this is an opportunity to start thinking new. And if we have to start thinking new, we need to have a new strategy, new action plan. And that's the opportunity which this COVID has given. Rather than just doing the same activity which we were doing last 70 years, can we start thinking differently at our city level? And for this, we definitely need new institutions. Maybe the old institutions which are there have really lived their life. We need to move them away. Some of our institutions have also started bleeding, but some of the institutions have no blood to bleed. We need to identify them and say that we need a new institutions to really move forward. We need a new skill sets, different way of thinking. We need a different type of human resource. We need to make the new generation really feel that while they are working with the cities, they don't look at cities as their destination of job. How do you create the skill set that they start seeing cities as a real new employer for themselves, a new way of dedicating to the local body? And last, we need to have a new financing strategies. Only depending on property tax or others will not work. We need to start looking at alternative way of financing our cities. So with that, I hope I was able to, if he has scored 100 runs, I could score 30, 40. So with that, thank you very much. I'm open to questions.
Thank you, sir, for your excellent presentation and lecture. So now the session is open for questions. So anyone have any question, you can ask. Anyone?
It is not a question, it's a compliment, Hitesh. It was very wonderful, actually. It was a pleasure listening to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I hope that's what I say. I hope मैं सचिन तेंदुलकर का इज्जत रख लिया सब.
नहीं नहीं, आप भी सचिन तेंदुलकर ही है. No, very well done, very nicely articulated. Thank
I
you.
completely agree with Professor Bandyopadhyay that I'm really mesmerized with his lecture. And also I heard the lectures of Professor Bandyopadhyay. I need not to make any comments on him. He's the one kind of nice personality and resourceful personality. I am obliged that he is also in our advisory board of South Asian Institute, SAIARD. And today I acknowledge that due to Professor Bandyopadhyay, I got the opportunity to hear Mr. Vaidya. And thanks, sir, for wonderfully showing the presentation through which we could highlight our insights into the upcoming new normal situation, how we should think about our urban sectors, our urban planning, because urban sector is a dynamic. I'm a geographer by subject, and as well as my special paper was urban geography, luckily. So that's why I can, whenever I deliver my lecture to my students in the classroom, I also talk to them that don't think it's just a living body, but it's just a dynamic body. And it is continuously, it has own ecosystem, it has own mind, it has own heart, it has own. Uh, so that's why, sir, I would like to know one thing that you have talked about financing system, we have to talk about new economic system as that city can sustain yourself. So most of the cases, whenever I asked any person regarding what is the concept of smart city, whenever I asked them, they just told that the city can be electronically sound, that Wi-Fi connections and all that. Most of the young generations has this kind of mentality. So how, I just want to know one kind of suggestion maybe I would like to get from you, how I should proceed with our students when we taught about a smart city, how we should focus, how we should highlight about the smart city concept. And second question is that you talked about the new financial system. So what are the way out through which we can find out new financial system for our upcoming cities?
Thank you, Professor Vishwajit. No, I think this question, how do you teach students, will be we have two professors, Professor Tathagat and Professor Saswat, who can define it better. But for me, as I told you, for me, smartness is how responsive city is towards the need of citizens. So, a very small example I'll give. If I want a birth certificate and I go to a city, how quickly that birth certificate is given to the citizen, that's the smartness the city will define about. So each city has to define its processes, its outputs, its engagement with citizens, and each one of them has to become smart. So it has to be, what is the relationship for me as a citizen? My relationship with my city, how do I define that? And that relationship can be, bring with a lot of processes, and if we can define those processes and make those processes smart, for a citizen point of view, I am saying that if I want a small resource from my city and it's given to me within 15 minutes, within 1 day, and defined parameters when it is given to me, I will say my city is smart. Second smartness indicator, which I will say, and that's again my experience. I come from a small hill town called Dharamshala. I was a part of a smart city when Dharamshala was declared as a smart city. And I went from Delhi with my 80-year-old mother to city of Dharamshala because my hometown is also there. And I said, see, Mom, this city was declared smart when I was a part of Smart City Mission. And in the bus stop, she wanted to use a washroom. And I said, okay. When I reached that washroom, which is at the bus stop, that had male entry, which is in front. The female entry, she has to step 8 steps down. If 80 years old mother, I have to take her 8 steps down, it was a challenge for me. Then these toilets were so badly kept that it was neither accessible, they were not age friendly, they were not disabled friendly, they were not gender sensitive. If all of them were not there, for me, the definition, it's not a smart city, even though you call it a smart city. So my only thing is that these are my criteria. If I call it, then the city has to be accessible, city has to be gender sensitive, city has to be disabled friendly, city has to be responsive to the citizens' requirement. If these are the some of the criteria city meet, this is for me as a smart city if I define that. The second thing which you asked about financial strategies, I definitely see each city has to go. There's no again a fixed approach that you make it as the city finance. Each city has to look at what is that unique next of that city, what type of property tax they can create, what are the other revenue sources they can really look at. They have to map their different types of activities, different types of revenue sources, and strategize and see what they can really look at, what can be the best financial economic development sources which they can develop within the city. So all of them has to be city by city, and it cannot be developed by just one program or one general guidebook from all over the thing. So every city has to come up with its own financial strategies and defining smartness strategies. I hope I answered, were able to answer the question. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
if any audience have any queries to him, please ask. Then we will proceed for our another speaker. So I hope nobody has any question anyway. So Kazi, you may proceed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you
again, once again, for
Yes, sir.
an opportunity for this presentation. Thank you. Over
Thank
to
you.
you.
And definitely we will work together.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next speaker of today's session is Professor Tathagata Chatterjee of Xavier University, Bhubaneswar. Sir, you present?
Yes, I'm here.
Your voice is not audible, Kazi.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes.
Please continue from the very beginning because your voice is still in the breaking. So.
Okay. Now, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Tathagata Chatterjee is a professor of urban management and governance, Xavier University, Bhubaneswar, India. His research interests are urban economic development and political economy of urbanization. He had published 2 books, Local Meditation of Global Forces in Transformation of the Urban Fringe and Citadels of India's New India's New Suburban Landscape. He received the Gard Alberts Award in 2016 from the International Society of City and from the University of Queensland, Australia. Today, Sir will speak about smart city management and governance. Sir, over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vishwajit. It is really an honor and privilege to join a panel in which my friend Professor Shashwat and Mr. Hitesh Vaidya is here. It is really a very, very tough challenge because one is Tendulkar, the other one is Virat Kohli. So after that, saying something on urban issues, it is really extremely difficult. But anyway, I will try my best. It is really a great honor to share a panel with two such very illustrious persons. And thank you again for inviting me here.
Welcome, sir.
So I will be trying to not score a century. That is almost impossible. Just try to score only 5-6 runs, I guess. Yes. So what Professor Shashwat, I mean, he talked about a wide landscape about the smart city mission of Government of India and how the smart city has progressed. I mean, practically there is nothing much one can add to that. It is such a very comprehensive lecture. And Hitesh ji again gave a very wide canvas of talk. I mean, what should be our urban priorities? Again, I mean, I almost agree to most of the points. So there is very little one can add to that. I would talk today in a slightly different way. I would like to talk what is a smart city in a global context, and how does India's smart city mission fits into that scenario. Globally speaking, the smart cities had mainly three great focus areas. Either they had been, focused on a technology platform where the smart city is being used for smart technologies, for smart computing, artificial intelligence, critical infrastructure services for the city. There is a technology angle that is a very major definition of a smart city. And recently we saw, as Professor Shashwat and Professor Vaidya also talked about, that smart cities has played a very important role, the command and control center, not only in Indian smart city, but in South Korea, in Singapore. The command and control centers of the smart cities has really played a very important role in the COVID context. Secondly, there had been some smart cities who had focused on the human resource aspect. So they sought to define smart city as a city for smart people and for a very highly educated population base. And the city there is being seen as a kind of a platform for innovation and knowledge exchange. So that has been another critical focus area for the smart cities. The city becomes a forum for innovation and knowledge. Shashwat talked about Masdar city in Abu Dhabi. Masdar city had been originated as a major educational hub. There are also similar initiatives in South Korea. New cities are being developed for very intelligent set of population to further advance knowledge in the critical areas. And thirdly, there had been the governance focus in smart cities, where the smart cities are being seen as cities which should encourage greater collaboration and stakeholder engagement and user-centric interfaces for better governance of the cities. So there had been the smart city, within the smart city literature in the globe, there had been three critical areas the smart cities has panned out. There is, of course, Shashwat has already talked and Hitesh, you also talked. I mean, there is no universally acceptable definition of smart cities, but there are some definitions which are kind of very broad-based. And one such definition is by Caraglu, which kind of thinks, I mean, tries to bring in the three broad streams on which the smart cities has developed: the technology stream, the governance stream, and the people stream. So they sought to define that, I mean, the smart city is when investments in human and social capital and traditional and modern communication infrastructure lead to a more sustainable economic growth and higher quality of life, which are in turn linked to wise management of natural resources through participatory governance. So they try to create a definition which takes the governance aspect of participation, talks about improving the quality of life of the people, sustainable management of natural resources, which is very important, as we know the cities across the world account for 80% of the global GDP production. And Shashwat talked about, in Indian context, the cities about 65%. So India is in a track towards higher urbanization. So India would also move towards that direction. But also at the same time, the cities also account for about 75% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. As Shashwat was talking about, it's a case of pandemic. There had been 80% the pandemic cases are in the Indian cities. Globally, I mean, the UN record also says roughly about the same thing. Globally, it says about 90% of the global pandemic cases are actually in the big cities. So there are very major challenges that the cities are confronting. In that situation, there is no denying the fact that the smart city and its technology has a very important role in shaping how the future of the cities are going to be managed and governed. But I mean, when we talk about governance of the smart cities, then again, there are different ways of thinking about governance of smart cities. What do we really want? Do we really want a government for a smart city, or the smart way of governing a city? So I think there is a dichotomy here, that what do we really want to achieve? And when it comes to governance, there are again three major ways that the smart city can contribute. One is to improve the decision making. It's about how the decision is innovative, and what is the process of decision making, how it takes a step forward. Then how is a organization managed as a city as an organization, the urban local bodies, the development authorities, the municipalities. How do we manage those organizations in a much smarter way, in a more innovative manner, so they become more nimble, more people friendly? And thirdly, how do we bring greater collaboration across the various stakeholders and the user and the participants who are involved in the cities? Because the cities are the most complex creation of the universe. So, I mean, and there is no one formula that, I mean, as Hitesh ji has very rightly mentioned, there is no one size fits all strategy that one can have. So how then smart city can then become a process for building greater collaboration across the various stakeholders who come and be part of the city governance processes. Then when it comes to an approach towards the smart cities, what we see then in most cases, there had been the smart city missions had been city driven. In that sense, the India's smart city mission is a central government driven mission, which is slightly different. So I have here, I mean, two pictures. One is the smart city mission of New York. The other is a smart city mission of Barcelona. Again, Professor Shashat talked about Barcelona. Both of these are city-driven visions where the city governments had articulated their vision and they kind of encompass various aspects. In the case of New York, it is a global, the alpha global city of the world. So it is the heart of the global economy. So how to make the industry of the city economy very vibrant? How to engage people through a better, give the people a more digital experience? How to improve connectivity of the internet and provide access to various people? And then how to make the technology as a part of open government, how to improve transparency in the functioning of the government. As in the case of Barcelona also, there is also a move towards to see technology as an enabler for to achieve various kind of outputs, either better or improvement in the transportation flows, etc. And on the whole, to seek technology as an enabler for improvement in the quality of life. Also, there is a process orientation. So there is a process orientation which talks about the smart city as a governance process to improve active citizenship for co-creating cities, not a very top-down approach, but rather to facilitate more bottom-up participation so that the city becomes accessible for various stakeholders. The Indian Smart City mission is a very interesting project in the sense that it is a top-down government, central government initiative, but at the same time, it has created a platform where each city has got an opportunity to set out what it really wants. For example, Bhubaneswar has prioritized the disaster management as one of the key parameters of the smart, built-in command and control center, which would be helpful for disaster management because Bhubaneswar, the region, as you know, I mean, had been hit by various cyclonic storms. And so the government there has taken inputs from, learned the lessons for managing the city in the face of a lot of natural disasters. So the smart city mission of Bhubaneswar very intelligently incorporated an element of disaster management in the smart city plan. There are, of course, other cities, which as Jaipur, for example, which sought to improve its tourist experience. It's a major tourist city. So is Dharamsala, as Hiteshi talked about. I mean, on the overall, so where does then the Indian smart cities mission fit in the overall smart cities strategy? So what do we really want to achieve? On the one hand, there are a lot of flexibilities given to each city, but at the same time, there is also, it was a centrally driven mission. So it had certain amount of, it is a strong framework which identified certain basic parameters. So every now and then in Bhubaneswar, we confront this question. Every time there is a flooding on the road, the next day the newspaper headline will be, the smart city gets flooded. So as Professor Shashat has talked about, that of course, I mean, there are different missions working in the city. There is Amrut is for basic infrastructure. The smart city is for a specific goal. But I think also at the same time, there is somewhat, there is an identity crisis, is that what do the smart city really wants to achieve? So if we look at the financing part, financing and budget allocation for the smart cities, Bhubaneswar Smart Cities mission, we see over 80% of the smart cities mission are actually for the area-based development component, and only about 20% of the fund is towards the pan city component. And within the pan city component, what is the command and control center, the budget for that is only 442 crores compared to over 4,000 crores that is for the area-based development. But I mean, to me, it is the command and control center is really the nerve center of the smart cities, and that requires better funding. And as we recently saw in the case of pandemic, that the smart command and control center can really be a very important role in data governance at a city scale. And again, within the pan city component, and the Bhubaneswar is of course not the only city, but in most smart city budget, if we see, the major part of the budget within the pan city component has gone for traffic and transportation infrastructure, particularly for smooth flows of traffic signaling, traffic management. But then again, there comes the question, as in the case of Bhubaneswar, what we see is that the area where the maximum funding has gone is the area which is already quite developed, whereas the other parts of the city which are less developed are not covered adequately in the smart cities. Also, when we look at the planning strategies, we see that there are different kind of plans operating within for the same city, and each of the plans has got different coverage, and the plans are being handled by different agencies. So the cardinal issue of a smart city is to bring convergence across various stakeholders, various government departments. But when we see the present planning situation in Bhubaneswar, Bhubaneswar. So we see that there are 7 or 8 different plans. All these are plans are there is high level of overlap in many of the same things are being getting repeated in number of plans, and but number of different agencies are in charge of different plans. So we need to see that the planning for the smart city needs to be a more integrated. Also, when it comes to governance, we see that the city government is quite fragmented. The Bhubaneswar Development Authority and the Smart Cities Limited is overall planning body. Then there is a Smart City SPV, which is in charge of the Smart City Mission. Then the Municipal Corporation is in charge of 3-4 other central missions. Then there is a transportation system is being handled by CRUIT, Capital Region Urban Transport. So there are, various different institutions are acting together. So if we really want our cities to be smart, we need to think about bringing integration across these different institutions. And there, I think that the Smart Cities Command and Control Center can really play a very important role to become kind of the uh, data hub for the entire city. I think when it comes to articulating what we really want out of a smart city, Professor Sasat also talked about localizing sustainable development goals. I absolutely agree that I think the sustainable development goals is a very important window through which we need to define and redefine our cities, particularly in the post-COVID situation, in which environmental impacts and disaster management are very critical. And also, when we talk about COVID, we should not forget that the COVID is a event, which has, hit all of us very strongly. But the issues related to climate change have been there for a very, very long time, but which had not been getting as much importance in the political forums as it should. So, so this is now an opportunity to re-articulate the needs for an integrated, sustainable vision for smart cities. And there, the sustainable development goals could really play a very important role to define a vision for smart cities. And many of our missions has got strong linkages with the targets of the Smart Cities mission. This is a paper that Hitesh ji and I co-authored some time back. Almost all of our central missions has got interfaces with different sustainable development goals, and the smart cities can then become a platform to integrate various of these targets together to create an overarching an evidence-based platform for data informed urban governance systems. I would like to bring in that at the end of the day, we need to think about what are the good governance characteristics. It needs to be effective and efficient, must be incorporated in the rule of law, provide opportunities for participation, be consensus oriented, accountable, transparent, responsive, equitable, and inclusive. I think, the smart cities is a great opportunity to realize this ultimate our objective of getting good governance. Okay, with this, I would like to conclude and like to thank again SAIARD and Professor Vishwajit for giving this opportunity to present for the very knowledgeable audience. So I'm open for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was a great presentation and lecture. So now, anyone have question? Anyone?
Thank you, Professor Chatterjee. It was very nice presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sasa.
Thank you, sir, for wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Tathagat Saab. It was not.
Sir, your voice is not audible.
I said,
yeah.
Tathagat, it was excellent presentation. You did
Thank
not.
You, sir. And
you
thank you,
scored
sir.
double century.
I quoted from one of our joint contributions. So
Yeah.
great. I mean,
Great. No, very nice hearing you, and congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I would like to say something regarding the smart. You have talking about the smart city and the governance also. So, suppose in future, a smart city is a governance, and there is a term e-governance, good governance. There is a different terms we have used, anonyms we have used regarding the governance sector. So, and we know that there are different stakeholders regarding the governance also. So, in smart city case, suppose in the completely developed a smart city, so how the government's role will be, and what will be the role of different stakeholders in the new normal era, also keeping in mind the new normal era?
Yes, actually that would depend again from city to city, and as Professor Professor Hitesh Vaidya was also mentioning that in India we had the 74th Constitution Amendment Act, which gave a lot of powers to the city governments. But implementation of the 74th Amendment has not really flown very evenly. And definitely there is a time now to rethink about 74th Amendment. One of the talk that is always there, that the cities are not empowered. At the same time, there is also another issue that we need to think about. Do the cities have the capacities? So I think when we talk about the governance, there is an issue of a tussle between empowerment and capability of a particular city. I think when it comes to a smart city, we need to think about from both the two angles, whether that particular city has the capacity, and whether that city's governance is empowered, and in what way, whether the city is being able to generate its own fundings. I'm talking from Odisha, which is one of the less urbanized states in India. And there are, no one city is very big city. Even Bhubaneswar, the capital city, it's not very big compared to many other Indian cities. What we see here, that here there is a tremendous capacity gap. So even if we think as a ideal situation, as all the 18 functions prescribed under the 74th Amendment Act are devolved to the city governments, would the city governments be able to handle? I'm not talking about Bhubaneswar. Bhubaneswar is it's one of the definitely better managed cities, but there are the cities which are second tier, which are the third tier cities, cities like Berhampur, Balasore, etc., etc. Would they be able to handle all the 18 functions? So I think when we talk about governance, we need to simultaneously think of capacity building and empowerment, and at the same time financing. So we need to think about when it funds, functions, and functionaries. From the three different angles, the cities need to be strengthened, and I think we need to think about a graded empowerment. We really cannot have a same degree of empowerment for all the cities within a same state. So we need to revisit the question of 74th. And while saying that, then it comes to the issue of smart city. I think, I mean, for very big metropolitan regions like Calcutta or Bombay or Ahmedabad, or for such cities which are financially strong, they have strong administrative capacities. There, I would think that the smart city command and control center could become some sort of the nodal agency to provide data infrastructure for all various different ULBs operating at the city level. At the same time, we need to have more such command and control centers, but the smaller towns may not be able to afford those. So we need to have some kind of a state level urban strategy where the fewer towns could be grouped together to have a command and control center for better data governance. At a smart, in a more, I would say, evidence-based manner.
I would like to come to Professor Bandopadhyay just for a question. Sir, are you here? Shashwat sir, are you
Yes,
here?
yes, I'm
Okay.
here.
Actually, right now we are going to a phase of data war, and lots of data are coming, and it is the most important points right now, the data keeping, data management in England. So whether in case of sustainable city management, it will be more important, and if it is important, data is obviously important. So how we should keep the data? Is there any management system within the smart city project, or it should be?
See, the all management of future cities, not only smart cities, data would be the heart of all city management.
Yes.
Given us some indication about how important the role of this data governance play in our cities and how smart cities can leverage this data. Now, we have a very interesting example of GIFT Smart City in Ahmedabad, where, the
Sorry, your voice is breaking.
The GIFT City has a city level data office where the entire data is stored, processed, and data is shared. So data is going to play a major role in our future cities and urban governance. So, and also for service delivery. And I think we have to, as an urban geographer, urban planner, urban scientist, we need to look at it and do more in-depth study about what I think Professor Hitesh Vaidya hinted about urban spatial data infrastructure. Because presently, whenever we are taking a decision or a planning decision or an implementation decision or a governance decision, they are often very intuitive and not evidence based. So, so future, I think this urban data science and urban data labs are going to put us kind of a lot of valuable insights. And I would request SAIARD and other young researchers to take up a small town like Bardhaman or Siliguri. In fact, we had a plan to do a research under a grant, but because of COVID, it is halted. Actually, we want to take up a small town, which is and looking at their urban data requirement. And we call it, and how those data would be captured, stored, and then applied for decision making and implementation purpose. But since it is stalled, but I would greatly encourage, because this will be the requirement all future cities. And urban data science would be, the one of the very important area of research and work in coming years.
Yes, yes. Sir, one more thing I'd like to know. Suppose technology, sometimes we have a phrase that technology makes us fragile. So whenever we go into the invades into the smart cities concept, and particularly the smart city, so whether we will be fragile or we have to keep our environment, our manual figure side by side.
See, we have
What
to
do you
keep,
say?
we
As
have
an
to
urban
keep,
planner, what is your view?
see, we have to keep in mind that technology is a means, is not the end. So, that what I think very rightly Professor Chattopadhyay was showing, that we in terms of smart city, it is not how technology enabled. The technology should not become the focus or end or outcome of our smart city effort. So our technology dependence is that we are enabling technology enabled cities. So it is, that would be, then it will reduce our vulnerability. If we only dependent solely, our goal of city or smart cities become, application of technology. And that's what I get little worried or anxious when I see people say we'll fly drone. Smart city means like flying drone,
Yes, yes.
technology opening the door. I think that gives me a little bit of kind of a sense of concern. The smart city is not technology. The goal of smart city is much higher. Technology is the means of how to achieve. It's an enabler. We are using it, and I think that has to be kept in mind.
Yes.
So I think that would be very important. I think that's a very interesting question also.
And thank you, sir. And also, you have taken lots of initiatives regarding what you just told regarding the urban labs, and particularly small town-based labs. And it will definitely help to support a big base, obviously. So I would come to Mr. Hitesh Vaidya, sir. Sir, is the NIUA has any taken initiatives? Sir, are you here, Vaidya, sir? Vaidya, sir, are you here?
Hi, yes, I am there.
Okay, sir. I would like to know one thing, that is NIUA has taken any initiatives regarding this small town development, not only bigger, focusing on the bigger city, but on the small town level development and for data management, data keeping, what Shashwat sir has told just now.
So, and IUA is trying to work with the ministry, with all the towns, at least all the 100 smart cities, to come up with the data strategies for all the 100 cities. We are coming up with a template, a policy template for data smart cities. We are also trying to work out, a capacity alliance where we want to link each training institute with the 5 for 6 cities, make them responsible for 5 for capacity building. So that is how we are working on a capacity assistance to the all the cities in the country, and aligning them with the training institute, as well as helping them into coming up with the data strategies for that.
Okay. So, sir, particularly which parameters you are looking mostly looking forward regarding this capacity building?
No, the capacity building is basically right now the capacity building will be on, right now we all do a supply side of capacity building. This time
Okay.
we are working on the demand side of capacity building. So we have conducted lot of training need assessments surveys. And it cannot be one, as I told you, one size fit all. We will be looking at a waste management, which are the main challenging issues. We will be looking at data issues. We will be looking at procurement issues and the financial management issues. These are the main one coming up as a training need assessment. And we are also looking at different levels. On 3rd of October, or 2nd of October, when we will be launching our portal, this time on a capacity building portal on a solid waste management. We are now creating a portal where cities can put up their training needs, and we can provide a peer-to-peer learning between different cities on waste management. But we want to enlarge that portal with the different other people, other subject areas also.
That's great, sir. That's great initiatives you have taken on behalf of your institution. So thank you.
Thank you very much
for
giving
your
an
wonderful.
opportunity to join us.
No, sir, we are honored that we have got the opportunity to hear to three Virat Kohli, Dhoni, and Sachin Tendulkar, as you told yourself. So thank you. So right now, I would like to hand over the microphone to our executive Kadri Sengupta for the vote of thanks. Thank you. Kadri, over to you.
Thank you, Vishwajit. So now it's the time for vote of thanks. So today we have 3 sessions. So first of all, I want to thank all our delegates, all our resource person, and Professor Shashwat Bandopadhyay, Mr. Hitesh Vaidya, Professor Tathagato Chatterjee sir, for your wonderful presentation and lecture. Thank you, sir. Then I want to thank all our other participants who are present here, who spent their time for us. And it was a wonderful presentation and a wonderful time together. Then I want to thank all the members of SAIARD, without whom this program will not be possible. Next, I want to thank the National Institute of Urban Affairs, New Delhi, for your association and collaboration. Thank you all. So we are ending now. I think Vishwajit, do you have anything to say?
No, it's fine. Completely
Okay.
fine.
Okay. Thank you all. So hope to get you all in our next any session or meeting, whatever we'll do. Thank you all. Okay.
Okay.
So have a nice day and bye everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Vishwajit.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you,
Good
sir.
evening. Bye.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Bye.